Is that okay? Can I once again have a motion to make that modification?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
In favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you. Steve?
Okay. Last year, we invited some students to attend our board meeting in October. At the end of October really is School Board Recognition Month, but the last week in October is School Board Recognition Week. It is typically associated with the school board's convention that's held on a statewide basis. What we started last year is taking a look and having students prepare some artwork to present to the Board of Education and kind of tying the student accomplishment, students' work with the Board of Education, because that's the reason why you've chosen to serve and why we're here. So again, we'd like to really continue this tradition. This evening we have students and teachers with us, and the principals will be introducing them. But before we do that, what I'd like to do is just read the proclamation from the governor, just to let you know what this whole kind of school board recognition piece is about. And the governor states, whereas each year School Board Recognition Week is observed by more than 700 school boards and school districts throughout the Empire State, and whereas the men and women serving as members of our school boards are dedicated to children, learning, and community, and devote many hours of service to elementary and secondary public education as they continually strive for improvement, excellence, and progress in education, and whereas the members of the New York's local school boards are community leaders who provide an invaluable resource as local decision makers, responding not only to the respective educational needs of their communities, but also serving in the interests of school children and their future. And whereas during October 31 through November 4, special activities and programs will be held in communities across New York State in observance of School Board Recognition Week, and it is fitting to join in acknowledging the commitment and contributions of members of local school boards. Now therefore, I, Andrew M. Cuomo, Governor of the State of New York, do hereby proclaim October 31 through November 4, 2011 as School Board Recognition Week. So in honor of that recognition, and in honor of the service and the time that you commit to the school district, and on behalf of the children of the Hamburg Central School District, we would like to present to the Board of Education our teachers, our students, and if we could, once we introduce our students here, that we will have them stand by their artwork and kind of show you what they've done for us. So first, if I could just have the art teachers stand. I see quite a few of you guys. If you could stand. Congratulations. All of us, and I in particular, am always amazed at the creative minds of our kids and what they can take from their mind and put on paper. To go from your brain to the end of your hand and be able to put on paper what they see is something truly special. And I know that their talents are certainly exemplified through your efforts as well. So we thank you for that. And I guess if I first call on the principals to introduce their students that are here and ask their students to go to the artwork. Leslie, why don't we start with you at Armour?
Well, I haven't seen either Aiden or Samantha yet tonight, so they may still join us. Would you like me to present their pieces
Sure, if you would
for
please,
them?
if you present their artwork.
These two lovely pieces here were created by Aiden Cooper and Samantha Bonner. And we have these lovely replicas that were made so we can return the originals to the students.
Yep.
And do you want to direct us to?
Well, what they will do is the board will choose after the meeting. They'll go through their own selection process and choose through that. But as Leslie had known, the original artwork is being displayed on the easels, and the copies for your taking are below the original pieces.
Leslie, the same artist did both of those?
No, Aiden Cooper is a first grade young man, and he did the one on the top. Samantha Bonner is a first grade young lady, and I did not know first graders could create such beautiful work. We're very proud of them. So, thank you.
Great, thanks, Leslie. Jackie?
Well, I will start with, and Maggie is not here.
She's hiding the next one.
Maggie Dellinger created this piece of artwork. She's one of our kindergarten students. And I have to say, I'm really jealous that you get these pieces because both of these are really good and I would love to have either one in my office. And her piece is right here, so don't fight. Okay? And Demetrius is here. Demetrius, come on up.
Hi, Demetrius.
And Demetrius's piece is called Blue. And if you look carefully at it, the word blue is recreated over and over again and all the way around in this. And it took me a minute to see it, but then when you see it, you go, oh my gosh. And he did this all by himself, right? So he is in 5th grade. I thought he was in 4th grade. I don't want him to leave me. So, but again, this is Blue by Demetrius Roberta, and I'm sure you'll want that one too because absolutely, right? So, thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if Trina's here, but prior to this meeting, as we started at 6:30, Ben Whittemore was here from Charlotte Avenue. His picture is on the far end to the left there, and we did honor Ben for his work from Charlotte Avenue. Paul, if you'd like to, for Boston Valley, please.
Absolutely, we're so thrilled to present Wilson Kaczynski, currently in 3rd grade. This is our guy here. He's quite a little artist. He not only created this wonderful piece, but he submits artwork to the Hamburg Fair along with his sister Ingrid, who attend Boston Valley. So we're so thrilled that he's a very promising talent. He has probably the biggest gallery I've ever seen. And quite a support from his family. So we're very proud of him. So are they.
Congratulations. Ms. Giolella.
I didn't get to see the picture because it was chosen by the art teacher, so I got to see it today. And welcome to HSBC Arena, home of the Sabres. What an appropriate time for this piece of artwork. We're really proud of it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gallagher?
The high school has 3 pieces. We have Lieutenant Fleck Cook, created this phenomenal piece over here. And then we also have Heather T, created this little piece here, which is phenomenal. And we are fortunate to have Summer Gang come on up with us tonight. It's phenomenal. Just down the street from me, I just kind of threw it together like nothing. I could never do that. So wonderful, and thank you for representing the high school so well.
I would also like to thank Michelle Siren, who is a teacher here at the high school. Michelle coordinated the effort in terms of getting the artwork sent over here to the high school and then getting the reproductions for the board members to take. So if we could, a round of applause for Michelle and her work. And as always, I would like to thank parents and family members, grandparents for their support. Thank you for coming out tonight and supporting your children and being here as they're able to celebrate with us for our Board of Education. Thank you.
Next, we're going to complete the process of trying to get the selection of our next school board member. I'm sure people in the group attending know Kelly Harper needed to resign because of conflict. Too many things happening in her life, so we did go through a process. Is it appropriate, Greg, for me to sort of review the process that we've gone through? We did indeed announce Kelly's resignation. We sent out information both on the computer, also through the news, and also at board meetings, letting people know that we were seeking interested people in the community who would be interested in serving on the board. We then received information from 13 different people stating that they would be interested in considering being considered as potential board members. We developed a process by which we invited those people to come join us and present to us, presenting their CV and any letters of support they wanted to bring. But most importantly, coming and meeting in front of the board. Last Tuesday and Thursday, we had an opportunity to ask questions of these. At the time, it was actually 10 different people who were able to come. We were, as much as possible, in attendance for those meetings and listened to the information that was shared with us. It was a very educational experience. I think people did a lovely job answering our questions, and it was just phenomenal, the participation and the enthusiasm we had from the people who were interested in potentially being considered as a board member. We spoke about the sort of things we're hoping for in terms of a board member, and then the next step in the process was that each of us were to go home and think for ourselves about what people we felt would be the right people to be working at this point in this interim position between now and when the election is held in the spring, and this position will come up for election. Each of us were to come up with a list of our top 4 ranked people, and to submit that list to the district clerk. There was a concern raised that perhaps that information should be submitted to the district clerk here at this meeting. So I think the plan at this point is that you have each person's list that you can give us back. Is that correct?
That's right.
Correct? And then people are to what? To make sure that that's the list that they want, or to change it if they want to change it?
Absolutely. Going to then assign 4 points for a first choice, 3 points for a second choice, 2 points for a third choice, and 1 point for a fourth choice. We'll total it up and see who comes out with the highest score, and then you can decide
The intent is not for this to be information that we need to be openly voting for our particular person. This is not a vote. This is us ranking the candidates. So at the moment, each of us do have our name on this piece of paper so that Greg knows who to give it to, but you're welcome to scratch out your name and have it be anonymous, because we only really need to know the ranking, and Greg will then collate those numbers. No. You cross your name off and give it back to Greg. Greg, are you going to come collect them back from us? That'd be great. The position of being on the school board, as a lot of you know, is at times a bit of an onerous position. It's quite an honor, but it also can be challenging. So that I really am very respectful of the fact that our community came forward in such a way to say that all of these people were interested in helping us out and helping our kids out and helping our academic community out. And I think that that's awesome. I think it was really impressive, and I think we should give them a round of applause for the folks who are here. We really appreciate it. Can I put our student on the spot right now to share with us your student report while we're waiting?
Certainly.
Can we put you on the spot to give us a little insight as to what's happening in the schools these days, in the high school?
Okay. From the last board meeting we were at in September, we did have our homecoming events, and they went over really, really well. The dance had 900 approximately in attendance. The game had 2,500 approximately in attendance, and couldn't quite pull out a win, but we definitely did try our hardest. As for how much profit we made on the whole day, I can say that we doubled what we bought regularly for games and sold everything before halftime. So we weren't expecting that because it was our first Friday night game ever. for homecoming, and the parade went over really well. There was a lot in attendance, and I was overall pleased with how everything went. As for other things that went on from our previous board meeting, sports teams are doing well, academics are doing really well. I know for all the AP classes, all the teachers are really pleased with how students are doing this year. And just some updates is there's a senior barbecue chicken ciabatta's dinner Thursday. So.
What's coming up on the horizon? Anything particular coming up that you can think of that you should share with us?
Coming up?
That puts you on the spot, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Not really. I think there's a lull in this time of year. Just
And then the Thanksgiving drive probably starts up next. So
right.
You have to recover. But
yeah. This is kind of a lull to focus on academics and get our minds back into school versus homecoming.
College.
Yeah, this is college time for all
This is
this.
college time.
Yeah.
Jill did a great job in terms of communicating with everyone in Hamburg. She sent out numerous emails to us letting us know the timing of the events and what was taking place in each day during homecoming week. You know, thank you for that communication. I think that helped get a lot of people out to our events.
It was just, felt it was really different this year with times and a night football game, and it's important to have as much people from the community there as possible. Because it's not just a school thing, it's a community thing.
There was a huge community turnout.
Yeah, there really was, and congratulations on your alumni. Yeah. So.
The behavior of the students was fantastic to see as I walked around. Everyone was so well behaved, had a great time, no problems, no nothing. So.
Yeah, the bounce house is really
Yeah.
took the middle school kids in. So I'm pleased.
Bonfire was good.
Yeah, powder puff game was fun, and bonfire went over really well too.
Who won the powder puff game?
Seniors.
Who won the
All the
flow?
flows, yeah.
Oh, the seniors came in first place. The freshmen came in second place. It was honestly the best freshman float I've ever seen if anyone saw it. Third place was the sophomores and fourth was the juniors. So it was interesting. And then spirit totals turned out weird too. Seniors won, and then freshmen came in second, juniors came in third, and sophomores came in fourth.
So a little bit of a mix-up.
Yeah. So interesting.
And the weather was gorgeous.
Yeah, I
Thank goodness.
prayed
huh?
for that because
Yeah.
that's out of my reach, so I can't do anything about that.
Cooperate. Okay, as was the plan in terms of our process, what we were supposed to be doing is adding up the number of points that people got, therefore giving the one person at the had the highest number of points and sharing that person with the group, and we were then going to make a motion to potentially approve that person as the next board member, and then we will do a roll call vote on that. And the person in the lead is indeed Robert Madden. So I would like to make a motion that the Board of Education hereby appoints Robert Madden as the board member to fill the vacancy left by the resignation of Kelly Harper, effective October 11th, 2011 through May 15th, 2012. The remainder of the 3-year term previously held by Dr. Harper, which ends June 30th, 2013, will be filled through the election process at the annual budget vote and Board of Elections held on May 15th, 2012. Can I have that as a motion? Do we have a motion to do this? Then we'll go do a roll call vote. A second on the motion? Okay. Is there anything anyone needs to be adding at this point, comment-wise? Just interestingly enough, there pretty much is an amazing spread in terms of the number of votes that the people who participated in this process received, which really, I think, is exciting to think that we did all indeed find, people that, lots of people that we really liked. So moving on with the motion, I will then have a roll call vote. Patty, do you approve, you will vote yea or nay on the motion?
Yay.
Tom?
Yay.
Diane?
Yay.
And yay for myself. So therefore, I didn't even look out there to see if Robert Madden is here. Is he here with us today, or are we going to have to pull him in to get him to You'll communicate with him? Actually, we would not be able to have him participate in the meeting tonight anyways, because of the fact that he hasn't been able to review the information in advance. So he will need to be sworn in, he will need to meet and get the information in advance before the next meeting. Would we be, can he be sworn in without it being in a meeting, or do we have to have a formal meeting for him to be sworn in?
I think we have to do that at the meeting.
We should do it as a,
He was submitted the information.
we can give him the information.
Give him the information in advance of next
Swear in at
time's
the beginning of the next meeting. Right.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's move back to where we were a little bit out of order. I think we're going on with you, Steve.
Right.
And we're going to
We have, as we've talked before, the Dignity for All Students Act is set to be put into place in 2012. I've asked Colleen Staub to put together some information for the board this evening on the Dignity for All Students Act and what the district is doing and what you can expect to see in the near future. So, Colleen, if you would.
Okay, as Steve mentioned, the Dignity for All Students Act, I'll kind of give you a brief overview of what that is. There'll be a little bullying information here as well, and then what we're currently doing in our district. So as he mentioned, it was signed into law September 2010. It takes full effect in July 1st, 2012, but we're certainly working as a district right now to be in compliance with that. What's the goal of the Dignity for All Students Act? Is to provide public school students with a safe and supportive environment free from discrimination, intimidation, taunting, and harassment on school property, on a school bus, or at a school function. It goes on to say that no student shall be subject to discrimination, harassment, or bullying based on a person's actual or perceived race, color, weight, national origin, ethnic group, religion, religious practice, disability, sexual orientation, gender, or sex by school employees or students. And I read all that because it's a lot of information. There's a lot of different groups in there. And what our job is as a school district is to make sure that everyone that enters our school is safe. And this act will support that. One of the big components that we're all aware of is cyberbullying. DASA defines cyberbullying as the use of any type of information technology to harass, threaten, or intimidate someone. As a school district, we have the ability to discipline students for any off-campus conduct that may adversely affect the education process and endanger the health, safety, and morals of students. I think this is important to highlight because it's something that's new with this new law that's gone into place. As you know, cyberbullying is out there. As you know, students are connected to new technology 24/7, and this is something we're definitely looking at as a district. DASA goes on to say, through the Office of Civil Rights, OCR, if an investigation reveals that discriminatory harassment has occurred, a school must take prompt, effective steps reasonably calculated to end the harassment, eliminate any hostile environment and its effects, and prevent harassment from reoccurring. In other words, if we think that something is happening or it's brought to our attention, we must fully investigate it, we must document it, we must make sure that we're following through and making sure that everyone is safe. Again, what we're doing on a daily basis, but this law is making sure that we're doing that as a district. Here's just a list of the protected categories that DASA outlines. And again, remember that it's an actual or perceived category. What are we required to do as a district? Policy update. Currently, we're waiting to get this information from the state and from BOCES, and what we'll do is critique it and we'll tweak it to make sure that it meets the Hamburg standards. Obviously, we'll then go to you as the board for first reading and a second reading before we adopt that. We also are working on looking at our code of conduct for the district and updating that.
Vader, which comes through Greg's office, is the violent and disruptive incident reporting. That's what we currently use to put our discipline into. What we need to do is expand that more, make sure that we're including everything within that report. We also will be doing data analysis of different disciplines and different acts of bullying that we see. Do we see certain trends? Is it happening in certain areas? Are there certain hot spots that we need to be looking at? What DASA is recommending is that we take an RTI, response to intervention. Usually we use response to intervention with academic and behavior, but what DASA is recommending is we take that 3-tier approach, tier 1 being what we do for all students, tier 2 being a smaller group, and tier 3 being the most intensive, and use that same approach for bullying and for any type of harassment that we may have within our district. Last year we established a DASA team, and there will be an official training coming out from the state that everyone will attend, and then we'll go back to their buildings and make sure everyone within their building knows about it. Here's our DASA team. At every building, we're required through DASA to have 1 person officially trained. We've chosen in Hamburg to have 2 people. We think it's important to make sure administrators are on board with the school counselor or the social worker or the school psychologist in every building. So we will have 2 people officially trained. They will go back to the building and give that training to everyone in the district, or in the building when that becomes available. The next 7 or 8 slides give some overview of bullying. As we know, this is a hot topic and one that we're certainly discussing on a daily basis within our district. I'm going to read this definition, but I want you to keep in mind that bullying isn't easily defined. This is one definition. If you go on the internet, if you go to different sites, if you go to different agencies, they may have different definitions as well. So it's not that cut and dry, it's not black and white, but this will give you an idea, and certainly information I'm going to share with you is just the beginning of the information with bullying. And so this particular definition states that it's intentional, usually repeated acts of verbal, physical, or written aggression by a peer or groups of peers, operating from a position of strength or power with the goal of hurting the victim physically or damaging status and or social reputation. One of the words I want to point out in there is usually repeated. It doesn't have to be repeated. It usually is, but it doesn't have to be. And so again, I think one of our biggest challenges as a district and in buildings is identifying what is bullying, because it can be so subjective. Our stand is to make sure we take anything that's brought to our attention seriously and to make sure we investigate it and follow through on it. Different types of bullying. Physical bullying, this is probably the most easily identified. Pushing, shoving, acts that hurt people. You have the verbal bullying, name calling, making offensive remarks. Indirect bullying, spreading rumors, excluding, ganging up, and of course the cyberbullying that we've mentioned before. Physical bullying you see a lot in the younger years. Not that you don't see it in the older years, but you see it more in the younger years. As the students get older, you'll see more of the verbal and more of the indirect, and certainly the cyberbullying as they become more active on the internet. As I mentioned before, bullying isn't cut and dry, it's not black and white. So one of the things that we try to express is that there is some difference between what teasing is, what conflict is, and what bullying is. And I think these 3 definitions kind of outline that. You know, teasing is when you're having fun, good-natured, give and take between friends, designed to get both parties to laugh. Nobody's feelings get hurt, nobody feels like there's power over anybody. You know, conflict, in life you have conflict, you may disagree with somebody. And then there's bullying. Power imbalance, taunting another with the intent of harming, and it continues when the other is distressed. The teasing part, you recognize that you've gotten to a certain level and you don't continue. With bullying, it doesn't stop when someone feels hurt or feels threatened. Again, difficult to navigate through those. There's some statistics, and you'll see a wide range in the percentages, and that's because a lot of the statistics come from students reporting, and so based on who reported, you know, it's a little bit different. So 20 to 25% have bullied at least once, and 5 to 20% bullied consistently. 15 to 40% are targets of bullying. 20 to 25% are bullied regularly. And one of the biggest things I think we need to focus on is that the percentage increases significantly for our students who are gay, bisexual, and or have a disability. And I think that's something we really need to look at as a district and make sure we're focusing on that. 1 in 3 students report they've been involved in bullying. That means they could be a bully, they could be a victim, or they actually could be both. What we found out through our research and through attending seminars, a lot of times a student may be a bully, they may then be the victim. Where do we find bullying? Well, with cyberbullying, we find it everywhere and anywhere. As I mentioned before, it's 24/7. You know, it starts in pre-K, goes all the way through high school, and the peak is in the middle school. I mentioned before about the physical bullying and the social, verbal, and cyberbullying. Again, where does it occur? Anywhere. Hotspots including the bus, the locker room, playgrounds, lunchrooms. Usually it's places where there's not as much supervision. And again, as a district, those are areas that we're making sure we're focusing on. Are we doing enough in those areas? Do we need to do more? Again, that data analysis that DASA requires us to do will help us get that information. When a student is bullied, what happens to that student? Again, this is information, these are only some of the things, but you'll find emotional distress, loneliness, fear rejection. They don't want to come to school. You see anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, low self-esteem, and in some cases there may be a response with extreme violence. When we talk about bullying, a lot of time we talk about bystanders, the people that see the act happening. Peers see 85% of bullying. Most join in, some ignore, and to me the scariest part is less than 10% intervene. And what we need to do as a district also is to make sure that we inform our students of what to do if a situation arises. What's the proper way to handle it? We need to give those strategies and those skills to those situations. As a staff, we're crucial in dealing with bullying. We're often not involved in the bullying problem or the resolution. A lot of times that's because we don't see it. But as staff members, we have to get better at acknowledging it and doing our best to see and to look for it and to pay attention. A lot of times students don't tell adults about the problem because they fear what might happen if they do tell about a bullying incident. And one of the biggest things that we heard students sharing, we saw a webinar, was that students, I think it was 60% of the time, felt that once they shared about a bullying incident, 60% of the time they didn't feel like anything was done about it. In Hamburg, we want to make sure that students feel supported, and if they do come forward with information regarding bullying, that we're supporting them and letting them know that we're following through on it. As staff members, we have a huge influence on our students and how they treat other students. What we do in front of the class, what we do in the hallway, what we do in assemblies, what we model is what students are going to do. So in Hamburg, what are we currently doing to address bullying? As I mentioned before, we have our DASA team, our Dignity for All Students team. Recently, we had an excellent meeting about 2 weeks ago. It began with the cyberbullying webinar. We then had a debrief about the webinar. And we had a discussion as a district of where are we currently, what do we need to get better at, and what's our next steps when we're dealing with bullying. In future meetings, we're going to expand our DASA team to include parents, include community members, and include students. As I mentioned before, that group will receive the official state training, and then they will certificate to the buildings. We're looking at staff training. Greg and I are going around doing a DASA presentation at every building. We did our first one today at Union Pleasant, and just in that short amount of time, we got great feedback from that staff on what they see on a daily basis and what they need to help support our students in bullying. We're currently researching other programs that we can use with our students. Our elementary school counselors and social workers are working together to make sure that we're doing similar things in every building so that we have common language for our students. At that meeting, we talked about creating a student survey to make sure that we can gather district data, not the national data that I shared with you before, but what's happening in Hamburg? What are our true life stories that we're seeing here that will help us get better at addressing bullying? A couple of important dates. On October 6th, Jen Gilella, Bruce Mitchell, and myself attended an excellent conference, a half-day conference out by UB. They have what's called the Alberti Center, and it's a prevention center for bullying, abuse, and school violence. An excellent resource that we're looking to partner with in a couple of different areas. October 18th, next Tuesday, our Special Education Parent-Teacher Student Association is actually taking a field trip. We're going down to the Parent Network. They are doing an overview of bullying, and from there we're going to bring someone back in the next couple of months to actually deal with bullying in students with special needs. So we're making sure we reach out to the parents as well. And then on October 26th, we have a large group from our district attending the Character Council of Western New York DASA presentation here in Hamburg. All of these things will gain more information and make sure we get it back to the district. Student leadership is crucial. Our students interact with one another on a daily basis. We need to listen to them. We need to work through our clubs and make sure that we're using that avenue as well to address bullying. Making sure we're talking with all of our students, pre-K through 12, and making sure we're keeping all students involved. We have emails being sent out by teachers or principals, posters being made, bullying pledges being done. I mentioned before we'll be doing an updated policy once it becomes available with the Board of Education. We're updating our code of conduct, making sure we have consistent application of that, and making sure we're improving our documentation so that we do have data to look at and analyze. We had a focus article in this past focus to inform the community of what we were doing in the area of bullying, and we continue through our administrative meetings to have discussions of things that we need to focus on as well. This Friday we have an upcoming meeting that we will be discussing that as well, sharing ideas, what's been successful in different buildings, what we still need to work on, and making sure we continue to emphasize that bullying is extremely serious and that we all are what we kind of term as mandated reporters, that when we see it, we need to make sure we're supporting and helping our students. In doing a lot of the research, I found this quote that I'd like to end with. We must not, in trying to think about how we can make a big difference, ignore the small daily differences we can make, which over time add up to big differences that we often cannot foresee. And I think that bullying has been around for a while, as we all know. But I think if we look at it on a day-to-day basis, I think we're going to see some big changes here in Hamburg. Questions?
Any questions for Colleen or comments?
Thank you very much.
Very informative.
Colleen's going to go right into our enrollment discussion. This is our first enrollment, so it's our official opening enrollment is being redoing. Keep in mind that typically what we'll use our beds information for is our future enrollment projections. And moving forward and looking at where we're going to be having staffing issues based on enrollment, that's the precursor in terms of what we're going to have for the future projections. Colleen?
If you remember last month, I did grade level at each building, and what I did this time was just kind of give you the BEDS information from 2010. Remember, BEDS stands for Basic Educational Data System. So you'll see the 2010 number for every school, and you'll see officially what we had last Wednesday, October 5th, which was our official BEDS day for 2011. And I did that by school, and then I did the change. The last slide will also be district. So at Armor, in 2010, we had 453 students. This year we have 450, so we have a decrease of 3 students. Boston Valley, last year we had 284 students. This year we have 264 students. So we are down 20 students at Boston Valley. Charlotte Avenue, last year we had 411 students. This year we have 415 students. We're up a total of 4 students. Remember, this number includes our district-wide pre-K, which is 164 students. So that's why you see Charlotte's number in the 400s. had 714 students. This year we have 699, giving us a change of 15 students. Middle school, last year we had 897 students. This year we have 874 students. We're down 23 students. If you remember, we had that big class at 8th grade that we talked about last time. That moved from 8th to 9th grade, and you'll see the jump when I flip to the high school numbers. High school last year we had 1,174 students, and this year 1,196 students. Again, that class moving from 8th grade to 9th grade was a bigger class, which increased it by 22 students. What does that mean for us as a district? Elementary-wise, our enrollment is down 34 students. Middle school, our enrollment's down 23 students. At the high school, we're up 22, which as a total gives us 3,898 students in the Hamburg Central School District, which is 35 students less than last year. Any questions on the enrollment?
Questions for Colleen? Keep in mind, again, we'll be using these for our future projections. We'll be looking at any trends and patterns. BEDS data also provides free and reduced student lunch data, so it will give us an indication of where we are with free and reduced lunch counts, and it does, we are reporting staffing information to the state as well. So we can give you a future summary of the free and reduced lunch count once we get that in official form.
Are you ready to speak about the APPR?
Yeah. On the APPR, first I'd like to recognize Craig Davis and Peg Gomrez for their work as co-facilitators of the APPR committee. The APPR Annual Professional Performance Review is mandated, and keep in mind this was made into law through the Race to the Top application. And in order for New York State to compete for Race to the Top funds, we had to really acknowledge and change certain laws. One of them was with teacher evaluation in order to receive that money. The teacher evaluation process that's mandated is one on a point system. And our committee has been working, and we are very, very close to coming to agreement on our APPR process and system. The areas that we are continuing to negotiate at this point are a walkthrough observation model, and we're also looking at the appeals process. We feel comfortable that the committee will be able to come to agreement on the walkthrough observation model and how to assign points and where those points are to be assigned and the number of points for that. But we do expect to put the appeals process at the negotiation table for the new collective bargaining agreement. We are hoping for this conclusion to be reached hopefully during the next month and be able to bring you a plan in November which we can implement for the 2011-12 school year, and then look at and assess that at the end of the 2011-12 school year and make any recommendations for changes moving into 12-13. We'll continue to update this and have an update at the November meeting for you.
Okay, we now have time for public expression. Let me remind you that some topics are not permitted to be discussed in public forum. For example, any topic related to an employee that can be implied as being related to an employee, special education placements, individual student situations, etc. If the topic is inappropriate for the public forum, the board president will instruct you not to speak, but rather present your concerns in writing for the board's discussion in executive session. We have two people who have signed in to speak today. Martha Kavanaugh has requested that she address, I think it's policies, perhaps at the high school and middle school, I'm not certain, and then Sally Stevenson has requested something about, I believe the writing is ethics, I'm not sure. Martha?
Hi, I'm Martha Kavanaugh, I teach HRA at US History at the middle school, and I have a request that circumvents that policy question. At the May meeting, the May election meeting, up on the whiteboard, all of the votes were put out so everybody could see how many votes came in for each candidate for the Board of Education. And I've been going to those meetings now maybe 3 years or so. So I was wondering if you could possibly elaborate a little bit more on the Board of Education, what the votes were, the spread were tonight. You alluded to it, Dr. Calkins, and I thought you were going to say it, but you didn't. And I was just wondering if you could tell us what the votes were for the candidates and how many votes came in for each candidate. I'm pretty sure that that's eligible for public understanding.
I think that considering that in advance, we decided that this would be information that we would simply make the vote here present as we did, and as you heard, the vote was all in favor for the person who received the highest number of points, but thank you.
Will that be published, though, the votes, the spread of the votes? Will that be published?
I will, but that was not, the vote will be published, that all were in favor of the person brought forward.
The ranking of the votes, will those be published? So I
The vote, the only vote we had was the one you heard here today. Do you have other things you want to address, or should we move on to Sally?
No, I actually have two more things. I'm thrilled to sit here and hear about the Dignity for All Students Act, and I think that that's been working through Congress and through our legislative body now for several years. And it's shameful to me that we have to wait for something to go to Washington, D.C. before we wake up and realize it on our own. As somebody who spent 10 years in the classroom, it's appalling to me, this is on a general level, it's just in Hamburg, that children get treated sometimes the way that they're treated by their peers, and sometimes adults shamefully. But equally as so, on an equal plane to that concern of mine, I think that here in Hamburg we should be trailblazers. And we should have dignity for all staff. And perhaps we should call it DASA 2. So that staff aren't bullied. And that staff, people who work in this district, are not subjected to rumor mongering or innuendo or commentary, or possibly even, say, job transfers because of false facts being spread about them. And I strongly encourage this Board of Education to put your heads together and be leaders on this issue and not followers. Because I assure you, this issue will in fact be presented, and I would hate to have to wait another 10 years for have to go to Washington, D.C. and have an act passed through Congress. Lastly, Mr. Akramovich, I'd like to ask you this question. You talked about the walk-through observation model. Do walk-through observation models occur now in terms of teacher observation and evaluations?
Martha, I'm just going to say this is a public comment
It is. I'm
session,
asking
so
a question.
You can comment.
I am. So you can't
This
respond?
is this is a public comment, so it's open for your comments.
Okay, so pause to think about that. And finally, we recognize Mary Ann Dawson this evening, a teacher at Charlotte Avenue, and she's a wonderful person, and certainly gave her energy and her time to the children of this district. 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, I taught a young boy by the name of John Toper. And John graduated from Hamburg, maybe a little unconventional way of graduating from Hamburg, but nonetheless.
Excuse me,
And I would like to acknowledge.
Please, we do not want to be talking about specific students.
He
That's
passed
not the
away this
expectations.
past weekend, or this past month, and I would like to acknowledge the fact that he was a young boy that passed away and a graduate of Hamburg High School. Can I acknowledge
Sally,
that?
could you, I'm sorry.
Could I acknowledge the passing of a young student that graduated from Hamburg? He passed away, he died.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was
Yes, he
concerned
was
that
in
you
a
were
motorcycle accident in San Diego while serving on the USS Pearl Harbor in the U.S. Navy. And I was asking to recognize
Okay,
him.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you, school board. What I'm about to address this evening, I'm going to have to ask for a special meeting of this board. As you can see, I'm taping the meeting because under the Freedom of Information, I have the right under the federal and state laws. And at the last meeting, you had, in regard to the candidates, one of the members of the board said some horrific
Sally,
things.
this is specifically in talking about a particular person. We would not like to be.
I'm not mentioning the
silent for this meeting.
person's name. I'm asking, excuse me, Mr. Dills. I'm asking to meet with this board privately at a meeting with the entire board because what was said about a candidate was so egregious, so horrific, so damaging,
Sally, this is.
that it needs to be done. I don't want to do it here privately, and I wouldn't think of doing it privately because I'm sure
Good.
it's a libelous issue
Thank
towards
you very much. You can write that down.
Mr. Dills.
We appreciate it.
I would like to know if I'm going to meet with the board.
Excuse me?
I'd like to know when I'm going to meet with the
Why
sport.
don't you write it down and submit it to us? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I think that's all we have for public expression. Okay. We had the student report. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Do board members have other reports that they want to make on committees that they've attended or conferences that they've attended that they would like to share at this time?
The idea of coming on beach. I talked about it before, the town, the IDA bought, purchased through, I guess, the profits of the land across from the credit union on Gainesville. That tells students that all what they're doing is they're trying to get that shovel ready. So if business wants to build something, you can compete with other areas in the town of Nashville. So they're meeting with some planners and some architects and stuff like that. One of being able to sell this land and to increase profit for the town, because the town does reap 60% of its profits. And 40% goes back to paying off the debt. So that's hoping to get some business. One of the things we did with Jack Ray too was Ford Motor Company. And a few weeks after that, we did that, they made that announcement that they're expanding. So our businesses here seem to be thankfully going better. So,
Can you explain what are they doing?
which one,
Why, how are they getting money back? What are they doing?
they're investing $136 million in a new line. And with that, they need to hire back 112 people that were laid off. Hire 400 new more, these were good, union paying jobs, they had great benefits, and, you know, it's 400 people that hopefully will have a better quality of life, I hope.
This is
I'll have our stamping flag. So that should hopefully be here for a long, long time.
There was an article about where there's the basically, it made various other towns, municipalities who have kept their tax, and even keeled or have decreased it, and the town never keeps increasing it. And, we have a lot of seniors.
That didn't blame on the
People that have foreclosures,
stole our money.
and they can't keep, paying those high taxes.
With that, we also gave some tax breaks to some senior housing. I said it before, it's amazing that